Hi everyone, and welcome to part 3 of my entry into Joachim and Marcus's Reconnaissance Group Build. If you're not aware of the group build and like to take part, then please feel free to check out the description below where you will see all of the links. And just a reminder, I am doing Dragon's 1/35 scale Aufklarungspanzer. Now, we're now painting up all of the interior detail. As you can see, I'm laying down Mr. Surfacer 1000 mahogany. And first of all, we're going over nice and easy with a light coat of the primer. This has been thinned down and using 20 psi. Once that's dry, I then go back over and lay down another coat to get full coverage. And this is a great primer and creates a great platform for all your painting and weathering. Next, we're going to use a little bit of Vallejo Can Black Brown for the chipping. Now I'm going to be dry brushing this on. You can't really see the difference in color, but there is a marked contrast, and this will come through when we do the hairspray chipping. So need to apply 2 coats of hairspray at arm's length, making sure that each coat dries fully. And then I did a mixture of light brown and white hobby color to create that sort of alpha-benene white color. Now, I'm only starting to use Mr. Hobby, and I'm still getting used to how it chips. And this wasn't the best effort, but no issues because this will be painted over and will be touched up. So we need to do the floor. So we're masked off with Tamiya tape, the area that we're going to use. And here I'm going to be using a mixture of Vallejo whole red and red, a couple of other colours. It basically sits on the side and has been there for quite some time, but it's ideal primer colour. And we're going to dry brush this on again. So what you need to do is to fully soak the brush in the paint and then take off as much of the excess as you possibly can. And then when you're happy, it's a matter of just going in and dry brushing all of the paint around the floor area that we're going to be doing. Now, I was quite happy with this particular look, so we don't want it to be completely even. And then once fully dry, I then applied a dry brush of Panzer Ace's Old Wood onto the wooden framework mat at the rear of the area. And as you can see, that's all come out really well. So now we want to add a bit more detail with pigments. So we're going to have a light brown pigment as well as a dark earth one. And what we're going to be doing is just applying this with a brush all over the engine and driver area, not the engine, the transmission area and the driver area. And then once we've done that, we'll just fix that in with some pigment fixer. And as you can see, that's how it's now looking once it's all been dry. And then what I wanted to do was to add some wet effects using a mixture of lacquer thinner from Tamiya, which will pretty well much glue it all down. And you can see that's all been put in the tin foil cup there. And then just taking a brush, we can lightly do some splatters all over the area. And if you wish to, do a bit of a pin wash in the recesses. And if we just get the light on it, there you go. You can now see what an effective way that has worked out. So really pleased with how the layering process was coming along. And then I did some detail painting with the radio parts and the magazine holders at the back. Touched up some of those white areas. The medikit, that was done in field brow, and then a bit of a leather look on the pad and black on the handles and pedals. Exactly the same process on the smaller parts that are going to be fitting into the area. Really pleased with how the chipping went with this and also with the transmission. I could have added a lot more detail on the transmission, but there was no point because it's all going to be locked away and you're not going to be able to see hardly any of it. And then with the seats, again, bit of leather effect using Vallejo paints on all my detail painting. A little bit of red leather and orange brown there, creating a nice effect. and a little bit of rust work as well on the framework. As for the upper part of the hull, similar process again, all detailed out with primer. And then once that was all done, we need to prepare it for the oil paint rendering, and that meant laying down a layer of varnish. Now you've seen me do my oil paint rendering many times before. I will go into more detail when we do the upper hull, but in the meantime, this is the effects that I managed to create using the oil paint rendering system, and I was really pleased with the nice grubby look that came out in the end. And then once that had all dried, it was a matter of weathering all of those smaller parts. Again, this part came out really well. Really pleased with the look on this. It's a shame we're not going to see all of it once the model's complete, but it gives you a good idea, and it's good practice for me as well. And then we have the radio sets that will be going in the upper part, and also the hatches. So I'll just leave you some stills so that you can see in more detail. And then we did a bit of oil paint rendering on the top half as well. And these were the ammo holders. Really pleased with how they looked as well, and quite enjoyed doing those. And they'll fit into the upper turret. Now, during the whole process, it did get a little bit dirty, so we need to make sure we have a clean area for when we do the outside painting. So using the IPA and cotton bud, it's just a matter of keep working away at it, and then eventually it'll all come off, and then use some water to clean it all up afterwards, and then give it a nice dry. And as you can see, we've regained a nice clean surface for which we can do the painting of the outside when we need to. So with that all done, it was a matter of putting all the parts back in. We did the transmission and the main shaft first of all, and that fitted in not too bad. And then with that in, we then put in the seats and the ammo cases for the MG. And all in all, it was starting to take shape really well. I was really pleased with the whole look. So with that finished, it's a matter of turning our attention to the outside again. Now, I'm fed up with doing PE clamps, so I decided to go for the 3D printed ones, and these are absolutely beautiful. Easy to take off the sprue, easy to fix on the model with CA. The tools certainly look the part, as you can see here. So going forward, this is the way I'm going to be using for my clamps on future models. Now, there was a little toolbox, which you could either have the plastic or the photo etch option. They had some fiddly little clasps, but as you can see, if you're careful enough, they can be made to be fully working. But they are tiny. They're made up of 3 parts, as you can see here, and it's a matter of just bending them all together to create the one latch. And I had to do 2 of them. So there we go. That's what they look on the final toolbox. Now, as far as the back end goes, there are some options for the early and for the later models, so just be careful you choose the right options. And as you can see here, the top halves have all been put on now. The bend in the fenders has come out really well. Very pleased with how that was now looking. The front visors have all been masked off for painting, and all the pins on the spare tracks have now been added. And there we have the back end. Now, this top bit didn't go together particularly well, and there are a couple of little nasty glue marks, so I'm going to be actually covering that up with a blanket. But all in all, very pleased with how this was all heading. As for the inside, there's a gap there. I've no idea why that is. I don't know if it's accurate. There are no interior shots of this vehicle at all. But you can still see quite a bit of the interior detailing. So it was worth all of the effort to make sure it was all looking good inside. And I'll just leave you with a few pictures of the outside before we move on. Give me a chance just to have a quick drink break. So there was one mistake on the instructions again. The actual holders for the exhaust should not be attached to the cap. It needs to be attached to the actual bodywork itself, as you can see with these photos here. I found it easy to add these once the exhaust had been put on. Then I decided to add some tow rope holders, which just 5mm wire, flattened out, bent, and then stuck onto the back panel. And as you can see, this is the tow rope from Eureka, and that's now looking really nice. Now, as far as the pipe goes, I lost this to the Carpet Monster, so I had to make my own. And this is just made from 1mm plastic rod with a couple of pewter brackets and 0.5mm rivets added. Now, blankets. I use pie tin foil and micropore. So you need to make sure it's flattened out completely and then just add a strip onto the micropore to give it that covering. And then you can fold it, sculpt it however you want to. And it's an effective way of creating a blanket and then adding on a jerry can from the spares box. And I'm sure that will look good once that's all painted up. Now we're going to turn our attention to the final part, which is the turret. It's beautifully detailed. Hats off to Dragon for this. Some lovely parts, extremely fragile. However, everything went together perfectly and created a lovely subsection. Um, Nicely detailed. The PE parts came off a couple of times, so in the end, I ended up putting these down flat. But as you can see, nice detail. Lots of seam lines and lots of cleaning up to do, but it's well worth it. You have a photo etch option here for the front cover. Now, they've made it a two-seat operation. I'm not too sure if that's correct. Personally, I would have made it a one-seat operation. But again, there are no pictures of the internal detailing. As for the top swivelly part, again, nicely detailed. I've left one side off, as you can see, so that I can fit everything in when we put everything back together again once it's been painted and weathered. And this is the rotating handle for the turret itself. Again, nicely detailed. Now, these came with the kit, if you remember, the photo etch covers, and we added on the photo etch to the bins as well. If you want to, you can have these movable, so you can open and close them. I've decided to fix them in the open position. A couple of the little handles came off on the photo etch covers, so I'll be again putting a little blanket or a little tarp in the middle there. But yeah, really pleased with how it came out, but extremely fragile. And here we are. This is the top unit all together now. I haven't glued this. This will all come out in sections for painting, but this will give you an idea of what it's going to be looking like. And don't forget, we have the machine gun to add on there as well. And there we go with the covers. But again, very fragile, goes together beautifully, and makes a nice solid subunit. I'm very pleased with the look. Now, if you remember in the black and white photo that I'm using, there is tarp covers on the top of the turret. Now, I used to use green stuff, but I had issues with contamination, so now I've moved over to brown stuff. Make sure that you buy the one with the gap in the middle, so that they're separate. And I had no issues with this stuff at all. I personally think it's better than green stuff. It's just a matter of in this with green stuff, cutting it two parts because it's epoxy, and just mixing the two parts up together, making sure they're done fully. Yeah, it certainly gives your thumbs a good workout, this part. And spend a couple of minutes mixing that together. Once that's done, to stop it sticking, lay down some talcum powder and then roll that out. And we need to get this as thin as we possibly can. And then using a PE bending tool, this is an ideal cutter. And we want to create a rough shape to use to cover the PE covers. And then once we've got the rough shape, we roll it out yet again to get it as thin as we possibly can. And this is the sort of thickness that you're after. And then we cut it in two, just to give us an idea of the size that we need. And as you can see, pretty big at the moment, so we're going to need to cut those down again. And these are the two that I was happy with. Then using the edge of a knife, just to sort of tatter them up a little bit, really, to make them look well used. Possibly add a few little holes here and there as well, just to give that earthly look. And then once that's done, we can now apply it to the cover. So first of all, we need to wash off any excess talcum powder, get it fully covered in water, and then gently take it out and place it on top of the photo etch covers. Now, because it's so thin, it's quite easy now with a brush just to gently fold, crease, and get the underneath detail showing through. So it really gives a good idea of either a wet blanket or tarpaulin soaked in all the winter snow and ice. I was really pleased with how it came out. So this had dried overnight. Still a bit of flexibility in there, but as you can see, it's stuck firmly to the model, so I was pleased with that. And as you can see, we've still got some of the detail underneath coming through, which I wanted. And there's still that flexibility there if needed. So very pleased with my first use of the brown stuff. And that's where we are. That's the model now completed. So it just leaves me to say a massive thank you to all of my subscribers, old and new. Thank you for popping in and your continued support of my channel and my work. And in the meantime, happy modeling.